Jake hated Mondays. He sat in his small office at Area 51, staring at rows of numbers on his computer screen. The coffee in his cup had gone cold an hour ago. Outside his window, the Nevada desert stretched forever under a bright blue sky. 3 years. That's how long Jake had worked here. 3 years of checking equipment, replacing broken parts, and filling out forms. When he first got the job, he thought it would be exciting. Area 51, the most secret place in America. Surely he would see amazing things. But no, his job was boring, very boring. Jake was 28 years old. He had studied engineering in college and joined the Air Force for 4 years. When they offered him this job, he jumped at the chance. His friends were jealous. Area 51, do you see aliens? They asked. Jake always laughed and changed the subject. The truth was, he mostly saw old computers and paperwork. That morning started like any other Monday. Jake walked through the security checkpoints, showed his badge 3 times, and went to his desk. He had to inspect some equipment in Lab 7. Just routine maintenance. Nothing special. But when Jake arrived at Lab 7, something was different. The hallway outside was crowded with people. Scientists hurried back and forth carrying clipboards. Military officers stood in groups, talking in low voices. Jake had never seen so much activity before. "What's going on?" Jake asked a guard. "Dr. Price's team. They're running some big test today," the guard said. Jake felt curious. Dr. Helen Price was the head scientist at the facility. She worked on the really classified stuff. The things Jake wasn't allowed to know about. He checked his work order again. Yes, he was supposed to go to Lab 7, right where all the excitement was happening. He pushed through the door. The lab was huge, much bigger than he expected. The ceiling stretched up 3 stories high. In the center of the room sat a strange device. It looked ancient and alien. Curved metal pieces formed a circular frame about 15 feet wide. Symbols covered every surface. They glowed with a soft blue light. "You must be," a woman's voice said. Jake turned. Dr. Helen Price walked toward him. She was in her 50s with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. Yes, ma'am. I'm here to check the power systems, Jake said. Good. We need everything working perfectly today. This is the most important test we've ever run. Dr. Price looked at the device with excitement in her eyes. What is it? Jake asked. Dr. Price smiled. You have security clearance now. Level 7. Colonel Wade approved it this morning. That device came from a crash site in 1967. We've been studying it for 58 years. Today, we finally figured out how to turn it on. Jake stared at the device. His hands felt sweaty. You mean it's actually alien technology? We believe so. Come on, help us prepare. For the next 2 hours, Jake worked harder than he ever had. He checked every wire, every connection, every power system. Other technicians rushed around him. Scientists checked their computers. Military personnel set up cameras and recording equipment. Colonel Frank Wade arrived just before noon. He was a tall man with gray hair and a stern face. He wore his uniform perfectly. Everything about him was sharp and military. Status report, Colonel Wade said. All systems ready, sir, Dr. Price replied. We're prepared to activate the device. Do it. Dr. Price nodded to her team. They began typing on their computers. The device hummed. The blue symbols grew brighter. The air in the room felt strange, like before a thunderstorm. Jake's hair stood up on his arms. Then it happened. The center of the device shimmered. The air twisted and bent. A hole opened in reality itself. Through the opening, Jake saw another place. Purple sky. Strange trees made of crystal. Another world. My God, someone whispered. It's a portal, Dr. Price said. Her voice shook with emotion. An actual portal to another planet. Colonel Wade stepped forward. Can we send something through? Yes, sir. We have a probe ready. They sent a small robot through the portal. It rolled across the alien ground, sending back video. The air was breathable. The temperature was mild. Everything looked safe. But then the probe stopped moving. What happened? Colonel Wade demanded. It's stuck, sir. Something jammed the wheels, a technician said. Can we fix it remotely? No, sir. Someone would have to go through and fix it manually. The room went silent. Everyone stared at the portal. Another world waited on the other side. But who would be brave enough to go? Jake didn't know why he did it. Maybe he was tired of being bored. Maybe he wanted to do something important for once in his life. Maybe he just wanted an adventure. I'll go, Jake said. Everyone turned to look at him. You, Colonel Wade said. You're just a technician. Yes, sir, but I know how the probe works. I can fix it and come right back. 5 minutes maximum. Colonel Wade studied Jake's face. You understand the risk. We don't know if the portal is stable. You could get stranded. Jake swallowed hard. His heart pounded, but he nodded. I understand, sir. They gave Jake a radio and a safety line attached to his waist. The line would let them pull him back if something went wrong. Jake walked toward the portal. The swirling energy looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Good luck, Dr. Price said. And Jake took a deep breath. He stepped through the portal. The sensation was strange. For one moment he felt like he was being stretched and compressed at the same time. Then his feet touched solid ground. He was on another world. The purple sky stretched above him. The crystal trees sparkled in the strange sunlight. The air smelled sweet and clean. The probe sat 10 feet away, stuck on a rock. Jake laughed. He had just stepped onto an alien planet. This was incredible. He walked to the probe and bent down to free it. Behind him he heard shouting. He turned around. The portal was flickering. The blue light flashed on and off. Get back here now. Colonel Wade's voice crackled through his radio. Jake ran, but he was too late. The portal collapsed with a sound like breaking glass. The air where it had been was just normal air now. Empty. The gateway to Earth was gone. Jake stood frozen. He pulled on the safety line, but the other end was cut clean through. The portal had severed it when it closed. His radio hissed with static, then went dead. Jake was alone, stranded on an alien world, millions of miles from home, maybe in another galaxy entirely. And nobody knew if they could ever open the portal again. He looked around at the strange landscape. The sun was setting, turning the purple sky dark. He had no shelter, limited supplies, and no way home. Jake's boring job at Area 51 had just become very, very interesting. The first night was the worst. Jake found a cave in the crystal rocks before darkness came. He sat inside with his back against the cold wall, listening to strange sounds outside. Animal calls echoed through the alien forest. Some sounded like birds. Others were nothing he could identify. He didn't sleep much. When morning came, Jake made a plan. He was a technician, an engineer. He knew how to solve problems. This was just a bigger problem than usual. First, he needed water. He followed a sound like running water and found a stream. The water was clear and cold. Jake used a filter from his emergency kit to make it safe to drink. He filled his canteen and marked the location on his small GPS unit. The GPS couldn't connect to satellites here, but it could still help him map the area. Next, he needed food. Jake spent hours studying the plants around him. He used the old survival trick: rub a small piece on his skin, wait. If no reaction, touch it to his lips, wait. If still no reaction, taste a tiny bit, wait. It took all day, but he found 3 plants that seemed safe. They didn't taste good, but they wouldn't kill him. On the third day, Jake built a better shelter. He used branches from the crystal trees. They were surprisingly strong. He made a lean-to structure near the stream. It wasn't much, but it kept the rain off. Yes, it rained here. Purple rain from purple clouds. The water was safe after filtering. Jake also worked on a fire pit. Fire meant warmth, cooking, and safety. He used his emergency flint and steel. Soon he had a good fire going. The smoke rose into the purple sky. That's when they found him. Jake was cooking some of the edible roots he'd found when he heard a sound. Not an animal sound, something else. Musical almost, like singing mixed with wind chimes. He turned around slowly. Three figures stood at the edge of his camp. They were tall, maybe 7 feet. Their skin glowed with soft light like they had fireflies under the surface. They had 2 arms and 2 legs like humans, but their faces were longer, more delicate. Their eyes were huge and completely black. They wore simple robes made from woven plant material. Jake's heart hammered. He raised his hands slowly to show he wasn't dangerous. "Hello," he said, his voice cracked. "I'm friendly. I mean no harm." The beings made more musical sounds to each other. One stepped forward. This one glowed brighter than the others, with silver and blue lights moving under its skin. It pointed at Jake, then at the sky, then made a questioning gesture. Jake understood. "Where did you come from?" He pointed up. "Another world, another planet. I came through a portal, but it closed. I'm stuck here." The being tilted its head. It reached out slowly with one long finger and touched Jake's forehead. Suddenly, Jake felt strange. Pictures flashed in his mind, feelings that weren't his own. The being was trying to communicate directly with his brain. He saw images of their world, their people living in harmony with nature. He felt their confusion about him. They had never seen anything like him before. He sensed their curiosity and their caution. Then the being pulled back. It made sounds to the others. They talked in their musical language for several minutes. Finally, the bright one gestured for Jake to follow. Jake hesitated. Should he trust them? But what choice did he have? He was alone on an alien world. He needed help. He nodded and followed them. They walked for an hour through the crystal forest. Jake saw more of this beautiful, strange world. giant flowers that swayed without wind, small animals that looked like a mix between rabbits and lizards, a bird with 4 wings that sang as it flew overhead. Finally, they arrived at a village. Jake stopped and stared. Dozens of structures rose from the forest floor. They were grown, not built. Living trees shaped into homes. Bridges made from twisted vines connected the buildings. Hundreds of the glowing beings moved through the village, going about their daily lives. When they saw Jake, everyone stopped. The musical sounds of conversation died away. Silence fell over the village. The being who had found him made more sounds, loud ones this time, like announcements. The other villagers came closer, their faces full of curiosity and wonder. Children peeked out from behind their parents, their glow pulsing with excitement. An older being approached. This one glowed with gold and white light. It wore a headdress made from crystal shards. A leader, Jake guessed. The being studied Jake for a long moment, then touched his forehead like the first one had. More images flashed through Jake's mind. This being was showing him things deliberately. Their name for themselves, their peaceful way of life, and something else, a warning, a threat. Jake saw images of ships in the sky, dark and menacing. He saw beings in armor attacking villages, burning, destroying, taking prisoners. The called them the conquerors, and they were coming here next. The old one pulled back and made a gesture that Jake somehow understood meant, "Come." They took Jake to a large central building. Inside, they gave him food. Real food, cooked and prepared. It tasted strange but good. They gave him water in a cup made from a hollowed crystal. They offered him a place to sit on soft cushions. Jake realized something amazing. These people were being kind to him. A complete stranger from another world, and they were showing him hospitality. Over the next few days, Jake learned more. They taught him their language. He was surprised how quickly he picked it up. Maybe their telepathy helped. They could share concepts directly, making learning faster. The leader was named something Jake's mouth couldn't quite say, so he called him Brightwing. Brightwing explained more about their world. The had lived here in peace for thousands of years. They grew their food, tended their forests, and lived simple lives. They had no weapons, no armies. Violence was almost unknown to them. But they were coming. In maybe 2 months, maybe less. The conquered world after world, adding them to their empire. They had no way to stop them. They would be enslaved or killed. Jake felt sick hearing this. These kind, peaceful people faced extinction, and they had no defense. One day, Jake was working on his camp. He had moved it closer to the village. He was building a better water collection system using containers they had given him. It was simple engineering. Funnel rain water into storage vessels. Create a basic filtration system. Several watched him work. They seemed fascinated. When he finished, Brightwing touched his forehead again and shared a feeling. Amazement. Why? Jake realized something. They had never thought to do this. They collected water in simple bowls when it rained. They had never considered building a system to gather and store it automatically. Jake had an idea. "Show me your water source," he said in their language. His words clumsy but understandable. They led him to a place where water trickled from rocks into a small pool. The village collected water here, but during dry seasons, the flow was weak. Often they had to walk to a stream far away. Jake studied the area. Then he started work. He used rocks to build a channel. He created a series of pools that caught and held more water. He made a simple aqueduct using hollow crystal branches to direct water flow. It took 3 days, but when he finished, the village had 5 times more water available, and it was easier to collect. They were amazed. They had lived near this spring for generations and never thought to change it. But this stranger from another world had improved it in 3 days. Brightwing called a village meeting. Through their telepathy and broken language, he asked Jake, "Can you teach us to think like you?" Jake understood. They saw problems and accepted them. Humans saw problems and solved them. It was a fundamental difference in how their minds worked. I can try, Jake said. But first tell me everything about the. If they're coming, we need to prepare. That night, Brightwing shared everything he knew about the Empire. Their weapons, their tactics, their cruelty. The more Jake learned, the more worried he became. They had no chance against them. Unless someone taught them how to fight. Jake lay awake that night thinking. He was just a technician from Area 51, not a soldier, not a general, but he had 4 years of Air Force training. He had studied military history as a hobby. He knew basic tactics and strategy. Could one human make a difference against an empire? Jake didn't know. But these people had shown him nothing but kindness. They were facing destruction, and he was the only one who could help them. The next morning, Jake found Brightwing. I need to speak to all the village leaders, he said. I have an idea. It's crazy and it might not work, but it's better than giving up. Brightwing's glow pulsed with curiosity. What is your idea? Jake took a deep breath. I'm going to teach your people how to fight. The first lesson was the hardest. Jake stood in front of 20 volunteers. They had gathered in a clearing near the village. The purple sun was just rising, casting long shadows through the crystal trees. The glowed softly in the morning light, waiting for Jake to speak. War is ugly, Jake said. The had taught him more of their language, and now he could speak clearly. War is terrible. I wish you never had to learn this. But they are coming, and they will not show you mercy. The made soft musical sounds. Jake felt their fear through their telepathy. Good, he thought. Fear will keep them alive. First lesson, awareness. Always know what's around you. Always watch. Always listen. Jake pointed to the forest. What do you see? They looked confused. One named Dawn Singer spoke up. She was Brightwing's daughter, younger and brighter than most. We see trees, Teacher Jake. We see the normal forest. Look harder. What moves in the shadows? Where could an enemy hide? What paths could they take to reach you? They began to understand. For the first time in their lives, they looked at their peaceful forest and saw danger. They saw hiding spots. They saw attack routes. It scared them, but they needed to learn. Every day, Jake taught them something new. He taught them how to move quietly through the forest, how to hide, how to watch without being seen. They were natural at this. Their glowing skin could dim when they concentrated. They were already graceful. Jake just had to teach them to think like hunters instead of farmers. After 2 weeks, they were ready for the next step: weapons. Jake studied the materials available. The crystal trees were too hard to work easily. But there were other trees with strong, flexible wood. There were vines that could be woven into rope. There were rocks that could be shaped into points. "We're going to make bows," Jake announced. He showed them how to choose the right wood, how to shape it, how to string it, how to make arrows. They had never seen a bow before. They watched in fascination as Jake demonstrated, sending an arrow into a tree trunk 30 yards away. "This is a distance weapon," Jake explained. "You can hurt the enemy before they get close to you. This is important. They will have armor and guns. You need to attack from far away, from hiding." It took 3 weeks, but soon every volunteer had a bow and a full quiver of arrows. They practiced every day. Some were natural archers. Dawn Singer was the best. Her arrows flew straight and true. Storm Chaser, a young male, was second best. He was fierce and determined to protect his people. News of Jake's training spread. Other villages sent representatives to watch. Soon, Jake had 50 volunteers, then 100, then 200. Every day more came to learn. Jake taught them formations, how to fight as a group instead of individuals. The telepathy made this easy. They could coordinate without speaking, sharing intentions directly mind to mind. Jake had never seen anything like it. With practice, they could move like a single organism. He taught them ambush tactics. "Never fight fair," Jake said. "This shocked the peaceful. They are stronger than you. They have better weapons. Your only advantage is that you know this land and they don't. Use that. Hide, strike, disappear, make them afraid of every shadow. Jake showed them how to make traps. Simple ones at first. Pits covered with leaves, trip wires attached to bent saplings. Then more complex ones. The learned quickly. Their connection to the forest helped. They could shape living plants to create barriers and obstacles. One day, Storm Chaser approached Jake with an idea. He showed Jake a mineral found in the nearby hills. When struck hard, it sparked and got very hot. Jake's eyes widened. He knew basic chemistry from his engineering background. With some testing, they figured out how to create simple explosive charges. These are dangerous, Jake warned. Only use them on my signal, and never when your own people are nearby. The weeks passed. Jake worked harder than he ever had in his life. He woke before dawn and collapsed into sleep long after dark. The didn't understand rest days, so neither did Jake. They were desperate to learn everything he could teach them. But Jake also kept working on his other project. With Don Singer's help, he explored the ancient ruins scattered across the world. These ruins were clearly from the same civilization that built the portal device on Earth. The symbols were identical. Don Singer told him these ruins were sacred to her people. They believed the old ones had created the long ago, then disappeared. The Never tried to understand the ruins. They simply honored them. Jake studied everything. He sketched symbols. He examined the strange crystalline technology. He was an engineer, not an archaeologist, but he was determined. Somewhere in these ruins might be a way to contact Earth or even reopen the portal. One evening, after a long day of training, Jake sat with Brightwing by a fire. The old leader's glow had dimmed with worry. "Do you think we can survive?" he asked. Jake was honest. "I don't know. They are powerful. They have technology far beyond anything we can make. But you have advantages they don't expect. You know this land. You can coordinate telepathically. And most important, you're fighting for your home. That's worth more than people realize. You are fighting for our home too, Brightwing said. Why? We are not your people. Jake stared into the fire. He had asked himself the same question many times. When I first got here, I was scared and alone. You could have killed me or ignored me. Instead, you showed me kindness. You fed me. You taught me. You treated me like a friend. He looked at Brightwing. Now you're in danger. How could I not help? Brightwing's glow pulsed with emotion. They didn't cry, but Jake felt the equivalent through their telepathic connection. Gratitude, respect, affection. Besides, Jake added with a small smile, this is definitely more interesting than my old job. The next day brought news. Scouts reported seeing strange objects in the sky, too far away to see clearly but moving with purpose. They were doing reconnaissance. They would arrive soon. Jake called a meeting of all the village leaders. Representatives from 20 different communities gathered. Through Brightwing's translation, Jake addressed them all. They are coming. Maybe 1 week, maybe 2. We don't have much time left. I need to know, are you willing to fight? Really fight? It won't be like anything you've experienced before. Some of you will die. Many of you probably. This is not like hunting or farming. This is war. The leaders talked among themselves in their musical language. Finally, Brightwing spoke. Teacher Jake, you are one person, but you have changed everything. You have shown us that we don't have to accept our fate. You have given us hope. Yes, some of us will die. But if we don't fight, all of us will die or become slaves. We choose to fight. Jake nodded. Then we need to prepare for their arrival. I want to show you something I've been planning. He led them to a table where he had drawn maps. The will land here. He pointed to an open area near the largest city. It's flat and clear, perfect for their ships. They'll expect an easy conquest. But we're going to make them pay for every step. Jake outlined his plan. They would evacuate the main city and make it look abandoned. They would set traps throughout. They would prepare ambush positions in the forest around the landing zone. When they came, They would face resistance like they had never seen before. "Will it work?" Storm Chaser asked. Honestly, I don't know," Jake said. "But it's our best chance. They expect you to be helpless. We're going to prove them wrong." The leaders agreed. They returned to their villages to prepare. For the next 10 days they worked without rest. They built hidden fighting positions. They created weapons. They practiced their formations and tactics again and again. Jake also made a breakthrough in the ruins. He found a device that looked like a communication array. With Storm Chaser's help carrying equipment and Dawn Singer translating the old symbols, Jake managed to activate it. The device hummed to life. Lights blinked on a panel. Jake didn't know if it was working, but he recorded a message anyway. His coordinates. A distress call. A plea for Area 51 to reopen the portal. He set the device to repeat the message continuously, broadcasting it through whatever network these ancient people had used. Then he went back to preparing for war. Because if help was coming from Earth, it wouldn't arrive in time. On the morning of the 14th day since the first sighting, the ships appeared in the sky. 5 massive vessels, dark and ugly. They descended toward the open landing zone exactly as Jake had predicted. Jake stood in the forest with 200 fighters. They were hidden, waiting, arrows ready. He could feel their fear. He was afraid too, but they were also determined. The ships landed with a roar of engines. Ramps lowered. Armored soldiers marched out, weapons ready. They looked like nightmares, 8 feet tall, covered in black armor, carrying guns that crackled with energy. The commander looked around at the empty city. He barked orders in a harsh language. His soldiers spread out to search the buildings. Jake gave the signal. 200 arrows flew from the forest. They had shields, but they weren't expecting an attack. A dozen soldiers fell. The others scrambled for cover. "Fall back," Jake shouted in the language. "Position 2." They melted into the forest like ghosts. By the time they fired back, they were gone. The war had begun. They were confused and angry. For 3 weeks, they had tried to establish control over the planet. For 3 weeks, they had failed. Every time they sent out patrols, the patrols disappeared. Every time they tried to set up outposts, the outposts were attacked and destroyed. Every time they thought they understood the enemy's tactics, the enemy changed them. Jake watched from a hidden position in the crystal forest. Below him, a patrol moved carefully through the trees. The soldiers scanned the area with their weapons ready. They had learned to be afraid. Good. Dawn Singer crouched beside Jake. Her glow was dimmed to almost nothing. She held her bow ready. Around them, 30 other waited in perfect silence. They had no idea they were surrounded. Jake gave a hand signal. They knew what to do. They had practiced this 100 times. The first arrow hit a soldier in the neck joint of his armor. He fell. The others spun around, firing wildly into the forest. But they were already moving to new positions. More arrows flew. Another soldier fell. Then another. The remaining ran. Jake let them go. Fear was a weapon, too. Back at their hidden camp, Jake met with the village leaders. Storm Chaser was there, his young face serious. He had become one of Jake's best students. Brightwing attended too, along with leaders from 15 other villages. "We're winning small battles," Jake said, "but we're not winning the war. They have 5 ships in orbit. They can call for reinforcements. Eventually, they'll get frustrated and just burn the planet from space. We need to change our strategy." "What do you suggest, teacher?" Dawn Singer asked. Jake pulled out a map he had drawn. "We need to take out one of their ships. If we can steal some of their technology, we can level the playing field. And more importantly, it will scare them. They think we're just primitive natives with bows and arrows. If we take a ship, they'll realize they're facing something more dangerous." The Storm Chaser leaned forward. "But how? Their ships are guarded. They have shields and weapons." "I've been watching them," Jake said. "They're overconfident. They don't think we're a real threat. Tonight they're rotating supplies at the eastern outpost. The ship will land, load cargo, and leave. For 20 minutes, maybe 30, it will be vulnerable. That's our window. The plan was dangerous. Insane, really. But the trusted Jake. They had learned that when he said something would work, it usually did. That night, 50 warriors moved through the darkness. Jake led them. They carried their bows, their traps, and the explosive charges Storm Chaser had helped create. They moved silently, using every trick Jake had taught them. The ship sat in a clearing, its ramp lowered. Soldiers loaded boxes while others stood guard. Jake counted 15 soldiers, too many for a direct assault. He gave the signal, the split into groups. One group created a distraction on the far side of the clearing. Noise, movement, arrows flying from the darkness. The soldiers rushed toward the threat, just as Jake had predicted. The second group, led by Storm Chaser, placed explosive charges around the ship's landing gear. The third group, with Jake and Dawn Singer, snuck onto the ship itself. Inside, the ship was all metal and harsh lights. Nothing like the organic beauty of the world. Jake's hands shook, but he forced himself to focus. He had been trained in basic infiltration in the Air Force. He could do this. They found the cargo bay. Boxes of supplies sat ready to load. But Jake wasn't interested in food or medicine. He wanted weapons, communication devices, anything that could help. Dawn Singer touched his arm. She pointed. Guards were coming back. "Oh, we need to leave." "Now," Jake whispered. They grabbed what they could carry. 2 weapons, a communication device, and what looked like a... Then they ran. Outside, chaos had erupted. Storm Chaser's charges had detonated, damaging the ship's landing gear. The soldiers were shouting and firing wildly. Warriors melted into the forest like smoke. Jake's group was almost clear when something went wrong. A soldier spotted them. He raised his weapon. Jake pushed Dawn Singer aside and raised his stolen gun. He had no idea how it worked, but he pressed what looked like a trigger. An energy burst from the weapon, hitting the soldier in the chest. The soldier fell. But another soldier was there, and another. Jake fired again and again. Dawn Singer shot arrows with incredible speed, but there were too many. Storm Chaser appeared from nowhere. "Go," he shouted in. "I'll hold them." "No," Jake yelled back. But Storm Chaser was already moving. He drew the soldiers away from Jake and Dawn's Singer. His bow sang as he fired arrow after arrow. He was magnificent and brave and completely surrounded. Jake tried to go back for him, but Dawn's Singer pulled him away. "He chose this," she said, her voice breaking. "Don't waste his sacrifice." They ran. Behind them they heard Storm Chaser's final battle cry. Then silence. Back at camp, Jake sat alone. They had succeeded. They had stolen technology. They had damaged a ship. But Storm Chaser was dead. A young who had trusted Jake, who had learned from him, who had become his friend. Brightwing found him sitting by the fire. "You cannot save everyone, Teacher Jake," the old one said gently. "Storm Chaser knew the risk. He died protecting his people. There is honor in that." "I should have planned better. I should have." "You should have done nothing different," Brightwing interrupted. "War takes the brave first. This is always true. Storm Chaser's death is sad, but his life had meaning. Remember that." Jake nodded, but the guilt stayed with him. Over the next few days, Jake studied the stolen equipment. The communication device was the most interesting. He couldn't understand the language, but he could access data. What he found shocked him. They had been sending reports back to their command. The reports talked about unexpected resistance and unknown hostile species. The thought they had allied with another spacefaring race. They mentioned advanced tactical doctrine and coordinated guerrilla warfare as evidence. They were afraid, not of whoever was helping they were afraid of humans. Except they didn't know humans existed. They just knew someone was out there, someone smart and dangerous, someone teaching primitive natives how to fight like professionals. The reports recommended caution. They suggested the Empire might want to avoid this sector until they knew more about this unknown enemy. Jake laughed. It was a bitter laugh, but still. One human stuck on an alien world with bows and arrows had made an empire nervous. The idea was ridiculous and wonderful at the same time. He showed the reports to Brightwing and the other leaders. Through careful translation, he explained what the thought. They think you're allied with a powerful species. We need to keep that illusion going. Make them believe humans are everywhere. Make them afraid to commit more forces. How? Dawn Singer asked. Jake thought about it. Then he smiled. We're going to stage a demonstration. We're going to show them human technology that will terrify them. Over the next week, Jake worked on his plan. He took apart some of the equipment and rebuilt it in ways that looked impressive but were actually simple. He created lights that flashed in patterns. He rigged up speakers to make strange sounds. He built devices that looked alien and powerful but were mostly for show. Then they lured a patrol to a specific location. When they arrived, they found a clearing filled with Jake's technology. Lights flashed. Sounds echoed. The own equipment, modified and arranged, created an impressive display. Hidden in the trees, Jake broadcast a message using the stolen communicator. He spoke in English, knowing the wouldn't understand it. This world is under our protection. Leave now or face the consequences. This is your only warning. The patrol reported back. Jake listened to their transmissions. The soldiers were panicking. They described advanced technology and alien communications. They said the enemy had revealed themselves. The commander pulled back all his forces to the main landing zone. He sent urgent messages to the Empire. He requested orders. Jake had bought them time, maybe weeks, maybe longer. But he also kept working on the ancient ruins. His distress message was still broadcasting. Every day he hoped for a response. Every day there was nothing. One evening, Dawn Singer sat with him by the communication device in the ruins. "Do you think your people will come?" she asked. "I don't know," Jake admitted. The portal collapsed. They might not be able to rebuild it, or it might take years. I might be here for the rest of my life. Would that be so terrible? Dawn Singer's glow pulsed softly. You are honored here, loved, you have a purpose. Jake looked at her, at this alien being who had become his friend, at this world that had become his home. No, he said slowly, it wouldn't be terrible, but I'd miss Earth, my family, my old life, even if it was boring. I understand, Dawn Singer said. That night, Jake dreamed of Area 51, of his small office and his boring job, of coffee and paperwork and Earth's blue sky. He woke up sad and homesick. But then he heard shouts from the village. Something was happening. Jake ran to see. Gathered in a crowd, all pointing at the sky. Jake looked up. High above, the air was shimmering. A familiar blue glow appeared. The portal was opening again. Jake's heart pounded. After 6 months, after all this time, Earth had found a way. They were coming for him. But Jake looked around at Brightwing and Dawn Singer and all the others, at the people who had trusted him, who had learned from him, who still needed him. They were still here. The war wasn't over, and Jake had a choice to make. The portal hung in the sky like a tear in reality. Blue light spilled out, exactly like Jake remembered. Through the shimmering gateway, he could see the lab at Area 51. People in uniforms moved on the other side. Home. After 6 months, his way home was finally open. Jake stood frozen, staring up at it. Around him, the watched in silence. They understood what this meant. The strange alien who had changed their world could leave now. Their teacher, their friend, could go home. A figure appeared in the portal. Colonel Wade's stern face looked down at them. His voice crackled through a speaker. "Can you hear me?" Jake grabbed his radio. His hand shook. "Yes, sir, I hear you." "Thank God. We've been working non-stop to rebuild the portal. Are you all right? Are you injured?" Jake almost laughed. Injured. He had trained an army, fought a war, and changed the fate of an entire species. But all he said was, "I'm fine, sir. But there's a lot you need to know. We're sending a team down. Stand by for extraction." A rope ladder dropped from the portal. Then soldiers started climbing down. Not just any soldiers. A full military extraction team with weapons and equipment. They spread out as they landed, taking defensive positions like they expected trouble. Behind the soldiers came Dr. Helen Price. She looked older than Jake remembered, more tired. She walked straight to Jake and stared at him like he was a ghost. 6 months, she said. We thought you might be dead. We tried everything to reopen the portal. The device kept burning out. We had to rebuild it from scratch using the notes from the original crash site. She looked around at the village, at the crystal forest, at the purple sky. My God, you actually survived on an alien world. I did more than survive, Jake said. That's when Colonel Wade climbed down the ladder. He surveyed the scene with his military eye. He saw the warriors with their bows and armor. He saw the organized camp. He saw the defensive positions. His eyes narrowed. What exactly have you been doing here? Jake took a deep breath. Then he told them everything. The Empire, the war, teaching the to fight, stealing technology, making the Empire believe a powerful new species was helping the... As he talked, more people climbed down from the portal. Scientists with equipment, more soldiers. Everyone stared at with amazement and curiosity. They stared back, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with uncertainty. Brightwing approached slowly. Jake introduced him. This is the leader of the... He doesn't speak English, but I can translate. Through Jake's translation, Brightwing welcomed the humans. He thanked them for coming to help Jake. He offered them food and shelter. Colonel Wade listened to all of this with his stern military face. Then he said, "You realize what you've done. You've made contact with two alien species. You've involved Earth in an interstellar conflict. You've claimed to represent humanity without authorization. This is way beyond your pay grade." "I know, sir, but what was I supposed to do? Let them die. Colonel Wade was quiet for a long moment. No, he finally said. You did the right thing, but now we have a situation. The portal can stay open for maybe 12 hours before it becomes unstable again. We need to get you home, debrief you, and figure out our next steps. Can you be ready to leave in 2 hours? Jake looked at Brightwing's wise old face, at Dawn Singer who had fought beside him, at all the warriors he had trained. The war wasn't over. They were still here, just pulled back temporarily. I can't leave yet, Jake said. Colonel Wade raised an eyebrow. That wasn't a request, that was an order. With respect, sir, these people need me. They are still here. If I leave now, everything we've built will fall apart. They will be conquered or killed. That's not our problem. It is now, Jake said firmly. I made it our problem when I decided to help them. I can't just abandon them. Dr. Price stepped forward. Jake, we understand your attachment to these people, but you have information we need. Information about this region of space, about alien technology. You're too valuable to risk. Then send people to help, Jake argued. Send soldiers. Send weapons. The portal is open. We can establish real contact between Earth and we can help them defeat This is first contact, Doctor. Real first contact. Isn't this what we always wanted? Colonel Wade and Dr. Price looked at each other. They stepped away to talk privately. Jake waited, his stomach churning. They gathered around him, sensing his distress. Dawn Singer touched his arm gently. If you must go, we understand. You have your own people, your own world. You have already done more for us than we could ever repay. I don't want to leave, Jake said. Not yet, not like this. Brightwing made a soft sound. But your people need you too, and perhaps they can help us better than you alone. One human changed our world. Many humans could save it. Jake realized the old was right. He had done everything one person could do. But Earth had armies, weapons, resources. If he could convince them to help, would have a real chance. Colonel Wade came back. Here's what we're going to do. You're coming back to Earth for a full debriefing, but I'm leaving a team here. 20 soldiers and some scientists. They'll continue your work with they'll gather intelligence on and they'll hold this position until we decide our next move. The portal will close after the transfer, but we can reopen it in about 1 week. Fair enough. Jake felt relief wash over him. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The next 2 hours were chaos. 20 American soldiers and 5 scientists met Jake translated and explained everything he could. He showed them the training grounds, the defensive positions, the stolen technology. He introduced them to the village leaders. He gave them maps and notes and every piece of information he had gathered. Captain Lisa Grant would lead the American team. She was tough and smart, a career soldier who listened carefully to everything Jake said. You built something impressive here, she told him. We'll keep it going. Jake also showed Dr. Price's team the ancient ruins. He explained about his distress signal and his theory that the same civilization had built the portal on both worlds. The scientists were thrilled. They immediately started documenting everything. Too soon it was time to leave. They gathered to say goodbye. Brightwing touched Jake's forehead one last time, sharing feelings of gratitude and friendship that needed no words. Dawn Singer gave him a small crystal from the forest. Remember us, she said simply. I could never forget, Jake replied. He climbed the rope ladder with his stolen equipment. The portal felt strange passing through again, like being pulled and pushed at the same time. Then his feet touched the floor of the lab at Area 51. He was home. The lab looked exactly the same equipment, the same boring gray walls, but everything felt different now. Jake had changed. The next week was a blur. Debriefings with military intelligence, meetings with government officials, medical exams. Everyone wanted to talk to him. Everyone had questions. Jake told his story over and over until his voice was hoarse. But he also pushed for action. We need to help he told anyone who would listen. The Empire is real and dangerous. If we make an enemy of them, we're in trouble. But if we make allies of thee and others like them, we have a chance. Some people agreed. Others thought Earth should stay out of alien affairs. The arguments went back and forth for days. Then they made the decision for them. Captain Grant sent an urgent message through the portal. They are leaving. They're packing up and pulling out. We just intercepted their communications. They're reporting back to their empire about a dangerous new species in this sector. They're recommending the area be avoided until they have more information. The whole command center went silent. Then someone laughed. Then everyone was laughing. One human, 6 months, and he had made an entire empire back down. Jake didn't laugh. He felt relieved, exhausted, and proud all at once. They were safe. For now, at least. Colonel Wade called Jake into his office. You're being promoted. Effective immediately, you're now lieutenant. You're also being assigned to a new department. First Contact Division. We're establishing formal relations with and you're going to lead it. Jake stared. Me? But I'm just a technician. You were just a technician. Now you're the man who made first contact with alien species and lived to tell about it. Now you're the man who won a war with primitive weapons and tactics. Now you're the man who scared off an empire. Colonel Wade actually smiled, something Jake had never seen before. You've earned this. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the Area 51 lab again. The portal was open. Dr. Price had perfected the technology. They could now open it reliably and keep it stable for hours at a time. Through the portal, Jake could see the world. Purple sky, crystal forests, and Brightwing and Dawn Singer waiting for him, glowing with excitement. Behind Jake stood a team of diplomats, scientists, and soldiers. Earth's official first contact team. They were nervous and excited. Jake was their guide to this new world. Ready? Dr. Price asked him. Jake thought about his old life. his boring office, his routine job, the predictable days that all blended together. That life was gone now. He could never go back to it, and he didn't want to. He had found something on that alien world: purpose, friendship, the knowledge that one person really could make a difference. He had proven that humans, despite being newcomers to the galactic stage, had something special. Not superior technology, not greater strength, but adaptability, creativity, the stubborn refusal to give up. These were human traits, and they were enough to change worlds. "Yeah," Jake said, "I'm ready. Let's go say hello to the galaxy." He stepped through the portal, from one world to another, carrying with him the hopes and dreams of two species. Behind him came the team from Earth. Before him waited the and whatever future they would build together. Jake's job at Area 51 had been normal until they pushed him through a portal to another world. But that push had changed everything. For him, and maybe, just maybe, for all of humanity. Sometimes the most boring days lead to the most incredible adventures. Sometimes the smallest actions have the biggest consequences. And sometimes one person really can change the entire universe. Jake had learned all of this, and his adventure was just beginning.